In this video, we're going to build some planters for the kitchen garden. These are actually replacing some old ones that are in a pile outside the workshop right now. Time has not been kind. They're not in good condition, so we took them down and let's build some replacements.
Since we don't really have a level surface in our entire property, I'm using the laser level here to get some height measurements so I can build it level, but in a couple of different terraces. And as you see here on the right side, one half of these new planters is already built. Started this before decided to record this video. The material I'm using is actually some pine and larch that I milled myself. So I'm taking one edge off and running them through the planer to get them to rough size. I want them planed because I'm going to put some stain and oil finish on these. So having a plain surface makes that much more of a better result when we're dealing with this kind of wood anyway. Using the measurements that I took with the laser, I can now adjust every plank to fit the slope of the ground roughly. Obviously it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be way better than just having a wonky planter. So in effect, I make a bunch of trapezoids here. Taking a bit of time, but it's worth it for the end result. And yeah, that's some heavy planer snipe. Happens when you don't set the height correctly. And then it's just rinse and repeat. Get the pieces cut to length and set the height measurements on them. There are a few straight pieces though on this planter, so not everything is a funky shape. The rear though, that's a funky shape. So I'm cutting part of it straight and part of it is following the ground. And here I'm cutting off those pieces from the rear. The reason for this is that the rear has kind of a step down because it covers the different levels of the planters. And now I'm actually using those marks that I made earlier to cut the slopes that follow the ground. For the entryway and the outside corners, I'm using some 4x4 posts to attach the fence as well as the gate and the garden portal that's going to be there eventually. Now, this one was a bit rectangular rather than square, so I have to trim off a little bit of it to get it to be actually 4x4, because here it's about 4 by almost 5. Then, just as with the sides planks, I'm also planing these to get a nicer finish on them rather than the rough sawn finish they have right now. and to remove the taper that obviously was in this one. Now, this one doesn't really have the tightest grain I've ever seen, but there's something about this grain that I really like. And here are all 4 of those posts, with almost everything else milled up. I just have to get the smaller corner posts that don't stick up from the sides done here. One of the last things before assembly is to cut some notches into the corner posts. These notches will effectively embed the side planks into the posts. And because of the sloping ground, each post will have the slots at different heights. Here I'm cutting those fence posts to length and also the pyramid tops at the same time. For this project I decided to go with a 45-degree angle, even though normally you do a more shallow angle, but I decided for this project this would look nice. Since the fence posts do stick up and you're more likely to actually touch them, I decided to sand these as well. I'll also make sure the stain and the oil I'm going to use will also be more evenly applied. And obviously break the corners with a block plane to make it nicer to touch too. So on these taller posts are part of the entryway. There's also a sort of trellis on the side that I'm dataing in here. finally time for assembly. So I'm starting with putting up the string lines that I'm using to just get it aligned properly. These lines are actually bale twine, but that's just something you have laying around when you live on an old farm. And once it's pretty much assembled, it's time to make sure it's where it's supposed to be. So I'm just checking the measurements and moving it up to the string line. Just one little section remaining, so let's get that one attached too. This is an equal part mixture of tar, linseed oil, and turpentine. And I've also thrown in some oil stain into that one to get it even darker. And after a few days, this will have dried enough to touch, and it's not going to be sticky anymore, and it's also going to be water repellent and protect the wood. Now obviously you're going to have to reapply it every few years or so, but yeah, it's a good protection for the wood. And it looks pretty nice too. This is the first of 2 coats I'm doing right now. I might do a 3rd coat later this year, but we'll see about that. 2 coats to begin with, it should be fine for now. And for the tall posts, I'm painting them white with some linseed oil paint. And with linseed oil paint, you apply it very thinly and apply several coats. And also this first coat is half diluted with linseed oil. Right, hope this is not too windy, but what I've done now is first off I put the wood chips up to it so we don't see more of the fabric. And I've lined the bottom with cardboard, and I put this moisture insulation on the inside walls. So now we're just about ready to start filling it up with dirt. But before the compost, I'm actually adding some of the old planks from the previous planters. You can see they're in pristine condition. That's what happens when you don't protect them from moisture and leave them out for 5 years. Yeah, they were holding up fine. And then we got some stuff from the chicken coop that I threw in here too. I'm gonna spread that out and then start adding some compost on the top. Now a couple of days later, I've done some planting and this is looking pretty good. But I'm sure you've noticed this entryway doesn't look very nice, and it's kind of abruptly. But there's going to be a portal thing coming up here that I'm going to be working on this summer, and a gate to match. Coming up eventually. Now if you watched this far, thank you so much. This has been my first proper YouTube video, and if you liked it, thank you very much. I'm still figuring this out, and I hope to be making more videos soon.